For the record, my name is Rosemary Rung, and I'm a representative of Hillsborough 12, which is the town of Merrimack. I'm very happy to introduce House Bill 1293. The intent of 1293 is to limit the use of fertilizer when it has the risk of entering water bodies. The reason for this is, as you know, there's been such an uptick in cyanobacteria blooms in New Hampshire, and one of the major causes of this is runoff, fertilizer runoff, runoff that gets into storm drains that eventually makes its way into fresh water bodies. This bill had extensive review and discussion in House Environment and Agriculture Committee, and I know that the ranking member Peter Bixby is here. He can speak more to this bill as far as the amendment that it contains.
Any questions from the committee?
Thank you.
Seeing none. Representative Bixby.
Good morning. For the record, Representative Peter Bixby, Dover, Stratford 13. And so this bill came to our committee, and we really liked the intent of it, but the way that it was initially crafted, it was putting everything into a relatively small paragraph that, and just expanding that paragraph, and it didn't really work well with the structure of the chapter. So what we did was we broke up the, well, actually let's get a little bit more towards the way the intent works. So this is being put into the, what is now known as the Soil Amendments chapter. And I think Senator Avard remembers the study committee we did on that. So one of the sections of law that we didn't do much with in that chapter was the fertilizer. It had to do with fertilizers designed for turf, and what the way that it works currently is that the department will evaluate, take registrations and evaluate fertilizer designed for turf and make sure that it meets the the criteria of either being low phosphate or no phosphate, and it says that it needs to be essentially labeled for the use in those situations. But so they don't actually, there's no control over how it actually is used in the end. It is simply a matter of making sure that the labeling is correct in current law. And what the 1293 does is it essentially creates standards for use as well as standards as well as the standards for labeling, and makes sure and requires that the use is consistent with the labeling. So what this involves doing was first adding a few definitions to the fertilizer statutes that deal with specifically with low phosphate and no phosphate fertilizer, and adding a definition that of turf fertilizer, so that the paragraphs that are you can see on paragraph 431 A and B currently under current law don't have don't indicate that it's really in the title of those paragraphs that this is about turf fertilizer. So this adds the idea that specifically that those are about turf fertilizer, and that makes it easier to then refer to those in further statutes. For those, all of the definitions we added, except for the definition of turf fertilizer, exactly meets the APCO, which is the organization that does sort of recommendations for fertilizer labeling. So it meets the APCO model language, and they don't have a collective term for turf fertilizer and AFFCO, so that basically relies on just combining two existing AFFCO categories into and calling those turf fertilizer. So basically, we just made some adjustments to the existing 431A and B in order to make all those definitions work out correctly. One thing that has happened since the law was passed about a decade ago was that the AFFCO definition of no phosphate fertilizer dropped the maximum fertilizer phosphate content from 0.67 to 0.5. So what we did change that amount because we wanted to meet the new current national standard. The next section is in terms of what you can and can't use turf fertilizer on, and basically it says that if you're going to be using fertilizer on lawn, it has to be a turf. It has to be a turf fertilizer, it says we explicitly exclude golf courses, even though they would probably be implicitly excluded already. For golf courses, they need to essentially follow the best management practices that are for chemical fertilizers that are published by the department, and that organization has already made their best management practices match the department's documents. So that's not much of a lift there at all. So there are some specific ways that you are not supposed to, you're supposed to either apply or not apply fertilizers. So you can't apply it during heavy rain or when heavy rain is predicted. You can't apply it when the ground is frozen. And one thing at the suggestion of Eric Sautel from the Farm Bureau, you can't apply fertilizer to the turf when it's not actively growing. And that's probably the most critical part there, because if the lawn is not actively growing, you're basically inviting runoff because the lawn won't take it up. And you can't apply it to impervious surfaces, which are basically, you don't put it on your driveway, you don't put it on your patio, which would be sort of a waste of fertilizer. It's kind of obvious, but just making sure that that's there, because that, if you spill it, you need to pick it up. And then there's a limit to how close you can be to a storm drain or to waters as defined in the natural resources RSAs. And the next section is basically, how do people know they're supposed to do this? And this is in the fertilizer section at retail stores. They need to post a post material, which is basically a 8.5 by 11 sheet of signage that is going to be designed by the department that explains what you should use on your lawn and why it's important not to put too much phosphate into the soil. So that's basically what the bill does. It makes some tweaks to the definitions, to the registration end of things. It requires that people follow the instructions, and it says retailers need to educate people about how this goes. So I hope that you'll look favorably on this. It was a fair amount of work between myself and Alan Eaton and Ted Deers, not Alan Eaton, Alan Wyman and Ted Deers, and the golf course folks to just make sure that we had all our ducks in a row here.
Senator Pearl with a question. Thank you,
Thank you,
Representative.
Mr. Chair. Alan Eaton, that's a name I haven't heard.
Yeah.
In the entomology department.
Yeah. I actually saw him a couple of weeks ago at the pub I go to a pub sing in York, and he was there. singing sea shanties.
So line 31, page 3, urban turf or lawn means non-agricultural land. So we're comfortable that this is in no way going to impact.
Wait, let me just catch up with where you're,
Sure.
page 3,
Page 3, line 31,
line 31.
the definition says urban lawn, turf or lawn means non-agricultural land. Just want to, we're clear and you're comfortable that this is in no way going to impact the application of fertilizer to hayland and things of that nature.
That's correct.
Okay, just
Yeah,
confirmation.
and that definition is straight out of the APCO recommendations.
Additionally, page 4, starting on line 18 to 21, my math is a little rusty. It's been a while since I've done phosphate calculations, but the turf industry is comfortable that parameters will allow them to do a new established seeding, get the root growth they need.
Yeah, so, so yes, these are basically that's the rate that's recommended by APCO. So
Okay.
that's the national standard.
They're comfortable. All right. Those were my 2 questions. Other than that,
Okay.
Bill looks great. Nice job.
Who is APCO?
Pardon?
And who is APCO, just for the public?
Oh, what does that stand for?
American, I can't remember exactly what it stands. It's basically, there's an organization
organization.
that
Just for
does-
the public, so
that
they know.
It's basically a combination of industry and research universities, and they make recommendations for basically anything having to do with soil amendments, that in terms of standardizing the language, and so that manufacturers can know that they have that the labeling is going to be consistent between states.
Yeah,
And
gotcha.
Alan Wyman can rattle off the actual name of it pretty quickly.
That's all.
but-
Thank you, Representative. I really appreciate it. I think no further questions. You did a really good job. Thank
Right,
you.
thanks.
Andrea, you're our final speaker.
Good morning. I'm Andrea Lamoureux, president of New Hampshire Lakes. We're a statewide nonprofit working to restore and preserve the health of our lakes, representing about 275 lake associations. And we are here in support of this bill for all the reasons Representative Rung and Representative Bixby explained. And we really appreciate all the work you've done, Representative Bixby, on this complicated bill, along with the Farm Bureau and DES. The only thing I wanted to add here is we are particularly supportive of the outreach component of this bill. We conduct a lake-friendly living program throughout the state, working with property owners to help them identify the things they can do on their property to be more lake-friendly. And one of those is, of course, to reduce the use of fertilizer, which can contribute to excessive plant, algal, and cyanobacteria growth. And I'm always just astounded at so many property owners just don't know about fertilizer, where to use it, where not to use it, how to use it, what kind to use. So I really think this increased outreach will help to minimize the phosphorus pollution to our lakes. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the committee? Seeing none? Thank you very much.
Terrific, thank you.
We're going to close the hearing on HB 1293 FN. I could exec it if you're all.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Is there a motion to move into exec?
So moved. Second?
All in favor? Aye. Any posting? None. Is there a recommendation on HB
Second.
on 1293 FN? Senator Waters and seconded by Senator Pearl. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. And Senator Pearl will.
Move consent?
Okay, you can't.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So Senator Pearl will take it out, 4-0. And is there a motion to move out of exec?
So moved. Second?
All in favor? Aye. Seeing none. Okay. Now we're going to hear from the prime sponsor of HB 1463. Good job, committee. Move these right along.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and good morning,
morning.
Senators. Barbara Comtois from Barnstead for the record. This bill came about because serving on a study committee with Senator Innes and Representative Bixby last year, we discovered that there are a lot of conflicting information out there, and there's no one place for someone in agriculture, especially in the meat producing section, to go to and be able to access the laws. We heard in testimony that one USDA inspector would say one thing, another person would get different information. In poultry, if you're using a federal law, you can't use a state law. There's a lot of conflicting information. And so my hopes with this study committee is that we'll be able to find out what's going on and draft it so that it can be in one spot, so easily accessible for farmers to comply and not have to search and go to different departments. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
Questions from the committee? Seeing none, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have nobody else who wants to speak on this, so I'm going to close the hearing and move into exec by Senator Pearl, seconded by Senator Waters. Discussion on 1463.
Second.
Seconded by Senator Waters. Discussion. All in favor of the study of HB 1463?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Senator Waters, would you like to take
I'd
this
be
one?
happy to.
All right. Senator Waters is going to take it out. Is there a motion to move out of exec?
Do you want to do 16? Oh, we gotta wait one.
I want to,
Yeah,
yeah.
So move.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Done. Look at that. This is how the Senate works.
Carol. Yeah, carelessly and precipitously and.
Yes. All right. So now we'll hear from the prime sponsor of 1628.
Good morning again.
Good morning,
Representative Peter Bixby, Dover, Stratford 13. HB 1628 is a bill that came out of a study committee that we did last fall or last summer, and that was Senator Pearl and myself and Representative Creighton and Representative Ankerberg, so the basic way that this bill came about was that we were hearing another bill that was trying to repeal a very small section of the apple inspection standards. And we heard testimony from the commissioner that repealing that piece of law wouldn't make any difference because they don't use it as the authority for inspections anymore. And then he, on further questioning, he indicated that in fact a lot of the things in the chapter that was in that particular chapter were essentially outdated and they didn't use them anymore. So I put together a study committee to study that chapter and the chapter that actually did have a little bit more active authority. And we went through in detail with Mr. Wyman from the department to figure out what was currently in use and what wasn't. And then we identified things like regulations for ice wagons and inspecting coal and the size of standard agricultural boxes in the state of New Hampshire. And all of those things and a number of things like them we determined to be no longer useful. Once we found all the things that weren't useful in chapter 434, there wasn't a whole lot left. There was a bit on apples, and there was a bit on cider, and there was a bit on timber, and we thought we could put all of this into 426 and just get rid of 434. So that's what we did. And most of this bill is just a matter of either moving those elements that we decided to keep from 434 into 426 or just deleting things. So that's mostly what is happening in this. And the one exception is the regulation on apple grading. And that was something that we had a clear indication from the apple industry in the state that they wanted to make sure that we kept apple grading, but it needed to be updated. And what we did with that was we simply said the grading of apples in New Hampshire should match the federal grading of apples. And that removed about a page and a half of text. And that's pretty much what the bill does. Any questions?
Senator Pearl with a question. Thank you, Representative.
Actually, more of a comment than a question. I just want to say thank you to you on this. Representative Bixby did a huge amount of work on this. It was a heavy lift, and he spent a lot of time on it, and I appreciate you taking on the challenge here. You just did a great job, and I wanted to thank you for it.
Oh, thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, well done, Representative.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. I have nobody else here to speak on it. Representative Judy Aaron is here in support, but doesn't want to speak, but I saw her nodding her head yes. So with that, we're going to close the hearing on HB 1628.
Move to exec.
And motion to move into exec by Senator Pearl, seconded by Senator Waters. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none.
Move on to pass.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Senator Waters, HB 1628. Discussion. Right.
I think I said everything I needed to.
All right. Well done. All in favor of HB 1628?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Who would like to take this out, Senator Pearl?
I will take it out.
All right. Senator Pearl will take it out. And motion to move out of exec.
So move.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, we got time to spare. Look at that. I'm going to wait for Senator Bradley before we exec anything else, so. All right.
I'll be right back.
Yep. So done. You're doing a good job, Phil. Okay. We still got 3 minutes or 2 minutes left. 2 minutes, We could do 194, requiring Director of Division of Historical Resources compile a list of public monuments. I'm definitely do that one.
194? I have an amendment for that.
You do? All right, so,
I don't know if that ever got out. I don't think of it.
nope.
Still right here.
So, yeah, we'll get one for Senator.
Phil? Yeah. Can you, I don't believe this ever got sent to you. This is an amendment for 194. Can you make copies? Copies? So I can-
And what do we got for time? Still got 3 minutes.
It'd be nice if all here you went that way.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's just not gonna happen, right?
Copies of this? Yeah, please. Be a catch, right?
Yeah, if Jeb were here, I could actually exec a couple of those. He's out in the hall.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to open up the hearing for HB 1121. Hear from the prime sponsor. Welcome, Representative.
Good morning. Good morning, members of the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee. For the record, my name is Representative Judy Aaron, and I represent Sullivan County District 4, which is the towns of Ackworth, Goshen, Langdon, Leominster, and Washington. I'm introducing this bill, HB 1121, to you today, having to do with wetland permit exemptions with regard to natural disaster and flooding situations. Last year, in July 2023, as well as in July 2021, many towns experienced flooding due to heavy rains. And for property owners who abut or who have on their property perennial or seasonal streams, there were instances of those streams, rivers, brooks, etc., being clogged up with debris and diverting in such a manner as to cause damage or threaten to cause damage to their gardens, their animal pens, structures, property, and farmland. Current law states in RSA 482-A:3, excavating and dredging permits certain exemptions, Section 1, or Roman numeral I, A, no person shall excavate, remove, dredge, or construct any structures in or on any bank, flat, marsh, or swamp in and adjacent to any waters of the state without a permit from the department. The exceptions to permitting are noted in RSA 482-A:3, Section 4. I've given you copies of those, and I've given you copies of those. And based on the RSA, if you want to clear out debris from a stream, river, brook, etc., then you need to get a permit from DES. As described to me by Darlene Forst of DES Wetlands Bureau Administrator of Land Resources Management, property owners cannot disturb a stream bed without a wetlands permit. Yes, you can also get an emergency authorization permit, but you still have to file for permits after the emergency permit is authorized, as the DES rule clearly states in ENV-WT 315.02, emergency authorization for private property. A property owner may request an authorization to act on an emergency basis prior to filling out an application under ENV-WT 310 or ENV-WT 311. And it gives three instances of whether it's a threat to public safety or public health exists. The request for emergency authorization is made within 2 weeks of discovering the need. The emergency work shall be completed within 30 days or 60 days for emergencies, and work covered by the emergency authorization is limited to what's specified. So as I read that rule, 315.02A, a homeowner may request an emergency authorization prior to filling out lengthy and detailed applications mentioned in ENV-WT 310 or 311. So a property owner can file one of these emergency requests, and then DES can turn around and determine that other permit paperwork should be filed and applicable fees be charged. The regular wetlands permit application is an absolute bureaucratic nightmare. It goes on for pages, and I invite you to to read DES rules ENVWT 310 and 311 and see for yourself what might be required of the property owner to submit tax maps, aerial photographs, drawings, measurements, and a ton of information with copies made to various offices. Furthermore, there's no mention of waiving the fees for an emergency authorization in the RSA or in DES rules, even though DES states this on their emergency authorization application form, which I've given you a copy as well. Quote, "There is no fee established for emergency authorizations. Should a follow-up application be required under ENVWT 315.04 for work that requires new permanent impacts to a priority resource area or vernal pool, or in excess of work necessary to abate an emergency. The fee is set by RSA 482-A:3 based on project type and impact fee as described on the standard dredge and fill application form," end quote. Who decides what are new permanent impacts? I'm guessing DES does. There's no mention on the Wetlands Emergency Authorization Request form of the property owners being able to perform any clearing out of debris. It's only limited to the phrase, quote, "Work will be limited to stabilization of the site or other mitigation of the immediate threat and does not create any permanent impacts to any priority resource areas or vernal pools," end quote. As I read it, that still means you cannot disturb the stream bed. You cannot clear out the rock, soil, embedded debris, silt, and vegetation that the flood has brought down to clog up the stream and cause it to divert and start flowing into your gardens and livestock pens or threaten your structures. Emergency authorization process aside, if all one needs to do is clear out a blockage in the stream on their property that is diverted due to storm debris, they should not have to go through a litany of requirements to perform a common sense act of clearing out that debris. Consider the average person who just wants to clean up their stream after a storm. If a property owner doesn't submit all the required information, then their permit, whether emergency or not, will be denied and further delayed. And if you don't file a permit, the fines are quite harsh. So yes, DES has an emergency process, but it can still take time to process, and DES can deem that you have to go through the normal permitting process afterward. These normal DES permits mentioned are expensive and cost a non-refundable $400 fee or more. Plus, the property owner may have to submit a plan for any stream work to be done, which can also be quite expensive for the property owner, especially if the property owner has to engage in an engineer, and so on. And the plan can be rejected by DES, and then you've lost your permitting fee and have to start all over again. Plus, it can take a long time for the permit to be approved by DES, and I think it's outrageous for property owners to go through this, whether through an emergency authorization or not. Ms. Forrest informed me that a property owner may remove certain woody debris from a riverbed, and I don't see anywhere in the RSA or DES rules where woody debris is exempt. That being said, any woody debris in question cannot be embedded in the bed or bank of the river. Removing easily retrievable woody debris is not considered excavation and therefore would not require wetlands permitting. But you can't enter into the river to remove the debris. If you need to modify the bed or bank of the river for equipment access, then that access preparation might require a permit as well. So unless you can extract the woody debris from the perennial or seasonal stream without going into the river or somehow pick it out with a crane, then you don't need a permit. How many property owners have a crane handy to remove heavy woody debris? Most often you have to enter a stream to remove woody debris. DES provided me with a fact sheet managing large woody material in rivers and streams, which I've given you a copy of. And the fact sheet states essentially that you can clear the material if you own the land under the stream or get permission from the landowner as long as you don't do anything to disturb the riverbed or banks. And if the removal would disturb the riverbed or banks, a permit is required. So, what happens to the rest of the material clogging up your stream or brook that needs to be removed in order for the river to flow where it should? Consider that the material cannot just be easily plucked out from the stream. Consider that the new course of the perennial or seasonal stream is now running over the banks and beginning new erosion of what was previously not land under your stream. and consider that this new course of the stream is threatening your barn or animal pens or gardens. In that instance, according to DES rules, property owners now need a whole engineering plan and $400 for a DES permit to get the river back to pre-flood conditions. My bill, 1121, HB 1121, just adds a new subparagraph to excavating and dredging permits, certain exemptions in RSA 482-A:3, and states a new section D, a subparagraph, removal of woody debris and blockages from the channels or water courses, or from culverts or bridges by the owners of said structure, by the property owner is allowed without a permit, provided sediment disturbance is minimized and the work results in no new permanent impacts to the bed of the water course. This is a common sense approach for property owners to clean up after a flooding event occurs and provides the property owner an exemption for emergency, perennial, or seasonal stream maintenance after a natural disaster or flooding event, and allows for restoration of a stream bed to pre-storm course conditions. It is a clear and concise addition to the RSA. I don't think that a property owner should have to apply for any permits or be subjected to any fines or penalties for work done to clear the debris buildup or blockage in a perennial or seasonal stream after a flooding event. The fact of the matter is that people are doing this now anyway if their streams are not within open view. I would also be interested to know how many property owners have applied for DES for emergency authorizations to clear blockages from their streams and have not had to file further paperwork or obtain further permits. I just believe we need to implement some common sense here. A property owner should not have to jump through hoops, pay a lot of money for unrefundable permits, or wait months for DES permit approval in order to simply remove debris and blockages from their streams on their property, especially if it's threatening their barn, livestock pens, and gardens. And the fear that a property owner may not know what they are doing, or may make a problem worse, or may just set themselves up for the same thing to occur again, is a tired argument. But with that in mind, I don't think putting a stream back to where it was pre-flood is harmful. And I don't believe property owners intentionally want to harm their stream or cause any kind of problems downstream. They just want to remove the debris blockage to the stream so that the stream can flow back to where it was originally. Most of the problems I've seen with flooding in my area is because there's been a sore lacking of river and stream management. And I think this is a result of the statutes we have in place and in DES philosophy regarding this. Their philosophy seems to be leave nature do its thing, and that rivers, streams, and brooks have their own natural evolution, and we shouldn't mess with that, and that organisms develop in those blockages and we shouldn't disturb them. Well, what about the property owner and the aggravation caused by the flooding event? What about the loss of land, the loss of use of land, or loss of physical property because of perennial or seasonal streams changing course because of blockages? The truth is that leaving debris to accumulate and allowing a river, brook, or stream to go wherever it wants is not a welcome idea for many property owners. And the sooner a blockage is cleared out, the better. Then we don't allow for further erosion of land where the stream or river didn't go before, and we aren't allowing organisms and wildlife or fish to set up house there either. Why should a property owner be saddled with dealing with engineering plans and bureaucratic and cumbersome permitting? The property owner just wants to get that stream cleaned up and back to where it was as soon as possible. And as for the DES emergency provision allowing for permit exemption, such that you can clear out these streams during the flooding event, how many property owners will want to risk their life and limb during a heavy rainfall to clear out a raging river or brook? I don't suspect any. We are seeing streams with massive rocks and debris from rains change course because they're blocked up, and those streams never get cleared out or dredged properly, putting property, including historic buildings, and roads at higher risk for future natural events. And the fact that DES in their testimony acknowledges that they need to further clarify their rules should give everyone a clue as to how confusing and bureaucratic it is. On one hand, they have pages of rules regarding permitting, and now they are promising to, quote, clarify that the clearing of debris from culverts and bridges does not require permitting, end quote. I'm not asking to clear debris from culverts and bridges. I'm asking the property owners be able to clear blockages that cause streams on their property to divert when said diversions threaten their property. It isn't merely about cleaning out easily plucked out woody debris, leaves, and trash. This is about removing an immediate threat to your property without weeks and possibly months of DES bureaucracy. And as I said, we need to do a better job of understanding and, more importantly, implementing stream management after the rain events happen. The same goes for management of our beaver bogs, as they tend to break after heavy rains have caused great damage. And ditto for our dams, both municipal and private. So I hope that you will consider what I've presented today, listen to some of the testimony of people who have been disaffected by current permitting rules, and pass this bill out of your committee. Let's simplify the process by allowing property owners to remove blockages in a timely and common sense manner. It's time we give these property owners a break, especially in a time when they have a huge issue and expense in front of them to clean up damage done on their land by natural disasters. So I thank you and appreciate your time, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Representative. Senator Waters with the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Madam Chair. So this came through the committee 17-3 and voice votes on the House 4, so that whatever concerns you may have heard from DES, you thoroughly considered them and you decided to pass the bill. Is that correct?
Yes, and actually did not come through my committee.
Yeah.
It went through Public Resources and,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it did.
Yeah.
17-3. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
all.
Senator Pearl with a question.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in today.
Yep, and I have copies of my testimony too.
All right. The question I have on line 4,
Oops, sorry.
it says the removal can be done, of said structure by the property owner. Is there any concern that that could be interpreted to mean that you own the property, only you could remove it, and not a contractor you hire?
I don't believe so, because the property owner would then, if they wanted to hire a contractor, it would be under their, the auspices of the property owner to do that.
Didn't know if that concern was raised and discussed or not.
No.
Okay, I'll ask the same question to DES when they come. Okay.
But I mean, certainly a property owner, and in most instances, would hire a contractor or somebody to come and help them remove
That would be
whatever
my
material.
expectation. I just would want to make sure
Sure.
that the interpretation wasn't so tightly put in that you had to physically do it yourself. If we felt there was a need to perhaps clarify that, would you be okay with that?
I'd be fine with that.
Okay, thank you.
Senator.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for taking my question. So I'm looking at the end of lines 4 and 5, and I'm looking through some of the materials that we were given, and I'm curious, is there a spot that I'm missing where where sediment disturbance is minimized, where there is a evaluation of what the sediment was beforehand, and no permanent impacts to the bed of the water course? How do we determine what that was to begin with, so we can evaluate if permanent impacts were made? If there's a, how are we determining the starting line?
Well, consider that the blockage that's there is already a permanent impact. I mean, it's you have debris that's come down in the stream. It's there. It's blocking the channel, so the stream is now finding another way to go around.
Right.
So that where that debris is already built up is already made a lot of sediment disturbance and created a permanent impact. So you're just clearing that out to where it was pre-flood.
Follow up? So I think what I'm struggling with here is that having lived on the Exeter River, for instance, we know that there is normal churn in the river itself. It's not a static environment, and so rocks move, habitats are in particular areas. Storms bring minor pieces of detritus from the trees, from the land into the river, which we don't necessarily see the impacts of right away. And it's only when there's a larger storm where you're starting to pile up that that seems to be, once it affects us, now we want to go and change what nature is taking care of in the river. I'm concerned that there's a large, for instance, a tree falls over, right? And you want to take off that tree. Well, what about all the things underneath it? Are you going to take that too? How do you determine what's the new damage, what's old, it just seems like a very squishy kind of thing to do.
Well,
I understand the impetus for wanting to do it, but the actual mechanics of doing it seem a little...
Well, property owner knows
Undefined.
where their stream was before and what it looked like before. And they can tell where, what debris has been brought back, has been brought downriver from a flood and causing the blockages. So I think, it's just common sense to remove that material out, knowing what it looked like before. So I'm not quite clear. I mean, they're not going to be, doing a whole lot of they're just going to be pulling out that stuff that's blocking the river from where it was before, or the stream. And I'm thinking more in terms of just stream on your property. I'm not thinking about the Merrimack River or any of these other bigger rivers. I'm talking about these streams that are on people's property.
Follow up?
Follow?
Yeah, I think I'm particularly sensitive in this space because some of these larger rivers are where the streams are coming from. So for instance, the space that I lived on was not a large part of the Exeter River. But there is a compact that we have to make when we choose where we live, that we understand that it is not a blank slate. There's nature that was there before us. Mm-hmm. And so when we choose to live near a river, we have to be really careful to understand that river is not static and it is not, lined in concrete and going to go in one, at one flow, at one height, at the same speed every day. There are natural changes to that, and I think I am reticent to do something in the smaller areas that could potentially significantly impact up or downstream. And these, I'm really struggling with potentially disturbing underneath or changing the bed of a stream or a river without having, had any documentation of what did it look like. What did it look like on Tuesday and the storm was on Thursday and now I want to take some stuff out on Friday. I don't know, it just seems very nebulous and there's
So when
no measure of what that.
If I may, then
Yeah.
so what if the stream is now blocked and it is now diverted around that blockage and it is coming up against your barn or threatening your animal pens or flooding your animal pens, you're supposed to leave it that way?
But we have emergency procedures in place to be able to address that.
But those emergency procedures require an inordinate amount of permitting because you would do an emergency authorization, but there's permits that you have, that's prior to filing all these other permits.
I hear,
Yes.
yeah, I hear what you're saying, and the reason, I am not hearing a reason to find a space where we're not all concentrating on the health of the river or the stream, for the benefit of just one person at a time, because one person does one thing, another person does another thing, and now you've actually changed the river or the stream, perhaps permanently. So, I mean, the reason we have these permits and this infrastructure of permitting around this is because we were intent on protecting that natural river and stream and its biology and all the animals and, you know, the way that it affects our environment. So recognizing that we have to, that there's some coexistence. So I'm
There a
not
question
comfortable.
here? Is that a question? Is that a question?
No, it is not. It is a statement.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Seeing no further questions,
thank
we're
you.
going to hear from Darlene from the Department of Environmental Services.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Welcome.
Well, good morning. Good morning, my name is Darlene Forst. I am the Wetland Bureau Administrator at the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. I believe we've previously emailed our letter of testimony from the department to you, but we've provided hard copies today, just in case. I will not be reading from our letter of testimony. I will simply address some of the points that have been raised today and summarize where the department stands on this matter. The department does not believe this is a necessary amendment. The department believes that we have made it clear that woody debris removal, leafy material debris removal, trash removal is not considered excavation. Excavation is actually removing the mineral substrates of the riverbed. If you are not removing the mineral substrate, you are not excavating, therefore you don't need a permit, which is why we don't normally develop rules about things we don't have authority to have jurisdiction over in the first place. We will happily add language to our rules in the section of things that are allowed without a permit to make this more clear. In fact, item C in the law, which precedes the paragraph D to be added, speaks directly to cleaning out culverts in stream crossings without a permit. Our concern on this is that the language as put forward talks about blockages of stream channels. As long as that's woody debris, again, we don't regulate this. We tell people all the time, make sure you're not trespassing. Our most common request is from canoe and kayak groups who have something, there's a tree across the river that they like to paddle down. They want to have that removed. They feel it's a danger and hazard to those who are navigating. We inform them to make sure they coordinate with the property owner. We don't have jurisdiction. That, prior to the flood events that began 4 or 5 years ago, was the most common time that this came up. Now we find ourselves routinely telling folks, please, by all means, clean the woody debris and leaf material, the trash, out of those crossings. For perspective, the flood event that occurred along the Cold River, Warren Lake, that was a culvert that failed. DES truly appreciates the need to clean out culverts. Where this becomes problematic is the discussion of blockages of channels. What is a blockage of channel? Is it limited to woody debris? Again, woody debris, we don't regulate it, not an issue. If the concept is that mineral materials, substrate, has built up and blocks a channel, does an individual property owner, is it in the state's interest to have an individual property owner go in and recontour a river channel. It has already been mentioned repeatedly that rivers should be managed as a system. We should have a process for managing rivers. I think with the recent flooding events, everyone acknowledges that we should be looking at rivers as systems. Managing a system and encouraging behavior where each individual property owner can go in without supervision and simply do what they think is best for the river on the property they own is not management and is not, in our experience, a productive means of addressing flooding problems and river bank stabilization and erosion issues. The other side of this that we are concerned about is in RSA 42A11. It states that one of the things we are charged with when we do issue a permit, we are not to do something that adversely affects the property or enjoyment of property of an abutter. Frequently on rivers, the center line of the stream is the property line, which means you can't clear a blockage that goes all the way across the stream because you're probably on someone else's land. So you have a limited area in which someone can work. You have little to no consideration or ability, because you are an individual and one of many along a stream who may only own half, to actually manage a situation as a system. We understand that this has been difficult. We are averaging a flood event every 6 months at this point. We are doing what we can through the emergency authorization process to facilitate management of disasters immediately after and during. Speaking to the emergency authorization process, there are two separate processes. One is in 315.05, which is during a disaster event, an individual, whether it's a private property owner or a road agent or someone from DOT, when there is an immediate threat to health or property or safety, that individual can take whatever is necessary, the action necessary to mitigate that threat so that that problem does not become worse. Would we think that now is a good time to go in and get the woody debris? Absolutely not. Wouldn't advise that. That's something the individual in the moment has to decide. We would have hoped it was already cleaned out under the exemptions that already exist. What it does mean is if, for instance, a bridge abutment begins to erode, if someone chose to, as a DPW representative, put large material, large rock, against that abutment to deflect current so that abutment did not get worse during the event, if they have the means to do it, they could do that without a permit and without contacting us. The requirement is that they report out after. If you're not in the middle of the event, if you have a situation, which is the more frequent situation, where an emergency damage has been done during the event and in the cleanup and the aftermath, it becomes apparent that you've lost a bridge or a culvert. If you've lost a culvert, you need to get emergency vehicles across that road. You can request an emergency authorization from us. Not every emergency authorization requires follow-up permitting. That is a process you can now file with us online, or you can do it through email, or you can send us drop-off paper copies. We will turn around an authorization to do what is necessary to temporarily correct that problem. Now, if the temporary correction does not require additional work after it's completed, if the temporary correction is we lost a 36-inch culvert, we're going to drop a new 36-inch culvert in, put dirt over the top of it, put some rock on the side slopes. If that is the solution, then that culvert has been replaced. It's replaced in kind. There's no additional work that needs to be done. Therefore, we wouldn't require a follow-up application. If there's no follow-up application, there is no filing fee, there is no process. It was mentioned that, what about the fees? There is language in the rule authorization section, so that would be at the bottom of 42A11, one of the final sections that talks about the department's ability to adopt rules for things that will not require permitting. This is where we couch our emergency authorization processes. These are actions that we've adopted by rule that will not require, they do not need to require follow-up permitting. The only time we're going to require follow-up permitting on an emergency authorization is if you had a 48-inch culvert and you only had a 36 available, well then drop the 36 in there, it's better than nothing, and get across. We would require a follow-up permit after things have subsided to restore back to the properly sized 48. If you've just dropped a few rocks in, you've dropped some large material in to protect an abutment, well, that abutment's not really secure yet. The only permit would be for the final repairs that are necessary to do a proper study of those abutments, make sure that they're safe, and address them as needed for a long-term repair that will ensure public safety. So it's not that every single application, it's not that every single emergency authorization or after-action report for things that were conducted during an emergency, they don't all require permits after the fact or follow-on permitting. Only when the damage is sufficient that there is in fact additional work to be done on the other side. So in those cases, yes, you would have to do a proper application. Does it always require an engineer? No. Our requirements for an engineer are for more than 100 linear feet of stream impact, or if you're dealing with a tier 3 or a tier 4, so tidal and large size. Tier 3 would be, I believe, a 1 acre or larger watershed. Those are when you start getting into an engineer, just to make sure that the culvert is sized properly and will pass the right amount of water, will pass a flood event. So we don't always require after the fact permitting. Yes, we have emergency processes. We have now made those fully available online. We are more than happy to clarify that these things do not require a permit, but the department's concern is this is not appropriate for individual property owners to go in and recontour stream beds. To that end, we would request that while we think this language is unnecessary, if the legislature through the House and Senate deem it is necessary and will provide clarity to the public, we would ask that it include a provision that you cannot take mechanized equipment into the riverbed or the stream bed. You can operate from the sides, but this should not give someone carte blanche to take an excavator or a bulldozer or any other wheel-to-tracked vehicles into the channel itself. And on that, any questions?
Sure.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just on the last point. So
Yes.
if we replace the bill with that language that's in the last paragraph on the first page of your letter, you're okay?
If the Senate deems that this is useful to the public of the state of New Hampshire, that is the language that we would prefer to be there.
Okay, thank you.
So, I mean, it appears to me your main issue is the end blockages, not the woody debris portion of that sentence. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And just to clarification, I haven't reviewed the language here that you've offered in this paragraph, but would it be the department's position that by the property owner, I think you may have heard my question to Representative Aaron, would that be interpreted to mean the property owner themselves, or would it be their contractor, or would that need clarification?
If the property owner hires someone to do it, we would still consider that to be an action by the property owner.
I just wanted to be sure it wasn't going to be interpreted that way.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, the amendment they suggest has that with the permission, so
Okay.
that clarifies it.
Further questions from the committee? All right, seeing none, thank you. Diane Timmons.
Smile and say ditto. I'm just kidding.
We'd be appreciative of that.
I'll be sure, I promise. Hi, so I'm Diane Timmons. I'm from New Hampshire Fish and Game Inland Fisheries Division Chief. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And so the New Hampshire Fish and Game Commission does oppose this bill as written. We oppose it for the exact reasons that Darlene had mentioned, as well as some things to think about. Do agree with the language changes that they had recommended, but we do definitely agree that it is a bit redundant, and I think clarification in the alternative way, as mentioned in their letter dated May 3rd, that they there is some redundancy, and if they added some clarification with that, I think that that would work also, but that's, for them. The other thing I would just want to make sure we're really clear on is in that language, it does also involve stream banks, and that's really important to us too. Right now, the way it's written, it just says the channel, and the stream banks are really a part of the vitality and the stability of the river. And I agree with Senator Altshuler 100% that there's a lot of diversity underneath the water that you don't see that happens day to day. And it's really critical to make sure that if something is being removed, when you start thinking about a big excavator claw, you're taking a little more than just that top structure that is impacting the water flow at that point. And so there is a very large potential that you're going to disturb the stream bed and as well as the banks getting the unit out there. So just want to make sure that that clarification is in the language as written. DES mentioned it as well, and I just wanted to make that point. So Fish and Game is opposed with it as written, but do agree 100% for the reasons that DES had mentioned, and also agree with their language.
Senator Waters.
Thank you, Chairman. So I can bring this over in a moment, but here's the language that DES, and I'll read it slowly. Removal of trash, woody debris, or leaf litter from culverts or bridges, or from the banks and channels of water courses with the permission of the landowner, provided mechanized equipment does not enter the water course, turbidity is minimized, and there is no permanent modification of the bed or bank of the water course. So I know you can't speak for the commission, but that's the language that DES.
Oh yeah, we agree. I have the
And
letter.
it just seems to address what you're bringing forward.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the ditto part I
Yeah,
wasn't
just
kidding
wanted to
about.
read it out just to make sure.
Further
Thank you.
questions?
Yeah, no, thank you.
All right, seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is our last one. You want to close the hearing? Or you want me to?
Go ahead and close it.
All right, with that, we're going to close the hearing on House Bill 1121.
All right, what are we doing on time here?
I wonder if you want to call Bradley back, if he can come, because you're going to start losing people.
This isn't an FM either.
At 10:40. When do you have to go, Deborah? 10:45 for Deborah and me
Both have 10:45s?
is when we're leaving. I'll come back, but, and you're going,
I'm okay.
all right, all right.
What's our next, can I see the list, please?
9:40.
Yeah. How many people are speaking on this next one? Thought he was talking about 11 o'clock.
3.
At 3?
Yeah.
Let's get this one and I'll come back to it.
Yeah, thank you. I think it would make
All
sense
right.
because of the scramble.
So, prime sponsor for HB 1554, please, come on up.
Thank you, Chairman Abard and esteemed members of the Senate. I'll be brief. I'm here as a prime sponsor for House Bill 1554 relative to Certified Culvert Maintainer Program, reporting and requiring the Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Services to regulate the cutting of native aquatic vegetation or submerged lands in lakes and establishing rulemaking authority for such regulation. Mr. Chairman, this started out as changes to the Certified Culvert Manager Program brought to me by many of my towns and as a request of Department of Environmental Services. And the second edition was brought in by committee on the cutting of native aquatic vegetation, and I would defer to others to answer those questions.
Okay. Questions from the committee at all? All right.
Thank you, sir.
Christine? How do I say your last name? Kamal? Kamal. And you are with Michael Kamal? Senior,
Mitchell, yes.
who does not want to speak. So Christine,
No.
you're the spokesperson.
Thank
All right.
you. So thank you.
Welcome.
I appreciate this opportunity to speak. My name is Christine Kamal. I have a property on Little Island Pond, 59 South Shore Drive in Pelham, New Hampshire. I'm here because I support HB 1554 with the amendment to allow DES, the experts, to regulate the cutting of submerged native aquatic vegetation in our New Hampshire lakes and ponds. Our New Hampshire lakes and ponds are important resources to the state of New Hampshire, held in trust by the state. And with that said, aquatic vegetation plays a vital role in the water quality as well as the overall health of the aquatic ecosystem. We have lots of nutrients coming into our lakes and ponds from various sources. Aquatic vegetation and cyanobacteria need those nutrients to grow and proliferate. If you cut too much, if too much aquatic vegetation is cut and removed from the water, then the nutrients coming in that would have been some of it taken up by that vegetation is now available for the cyanobacteria to use. I'd like to share with you a compelling story of what can happen without regulation in place. Our lake association began cutting native aquatic vegetation with hand rakes in 2022 via, even though they were told by the experts not to take a heavy-handed approach. A conservative estimate of 1.2 million square feet of native aquatic vegetation was cut and removed from the water body. And then in 2023, they purchased this mechanical harvester, and in your folder, you can see a picture of that harvester. It's remote controlled. The concerning thing is you don't need to apply for a permit. You don't need to be a limnologist, biologist, wetland scientist. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to have any knowledge or expertise to understand that delicate balance that lies beneath the water. Our Lake Association began cutting 2 to 3 times per week. The machine is not effective at collecting the vegetation. One day we went out after the harvester had been out there and collected 12 piles of loose cut vegetation that was just randomly floating everywhere in the lake. The plant, the target plant that they were cutting is called clasping pondweed. It not only spreads by seeds or rhizomes, it also spreads by cuttings. And that all that cutting left behind could be establishing self around the pond. DES knows the value of aquatic vegetation to the lake ecology. They have a fact sheet, which is also provided in your handout. In that fact sheet, they mention in there that if too much aquatic vegetation is cut and removed from a body of water, the water can go from a vegetated-dominated state with clear water to an algal-dominated state characterized by murky water. They even add that this has been noted in a number of New Hampshire lakes where large removal of aquatic vegetation has occurred. In closing, I respectfully ask you to please support this bill with the amendment to allow the experts to regulate the cutting of native aquatic vegetation. Thank you, and I'll take any questions you have.
Question?
Thank you very much for sharing all of this and the really compelling pictures. I'm curious after, so for the end of your story, after this was done and then you and your neighbors picked up the detritus, were there more efforts to continue using this machine, or were there?
Yes.
Did anyone go clean it up after?
No. One of the people that I was with put it on Facebook. Please, if you see this, it's important that you collect it. They have a chaser boat following behind it, but the problem is that when it cuts, the vegetation doesn't always immediately come up right away to the surface, and by the time you're somewhere else with wind and wave activity, it can go somewhere else. So it's really important that it is collected. I even suggested maybe putting a floating barrier to contain it, to make it easier to collect it if it happens to be windy or wavy. And then if it should come up, it'll be easier to capture it. I also want to point out, I didn't mention this, but in your packet, there is a huge cyano bloom that started to happen. It started in August.
Is this it?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the size of a football field. That continues around the cove. That started in August, and it continued for 69 days, and the last day ending in November 8th. Prior to that, we had no more than 2 weeks ever. So it's, you know, I'm not saying that it caused it, but it's very compelling. You know, you can't say for sure, but we did have heavy rain events in the past where we didn't have such large blooms. So if this, again, the other thing too is we also had an invasive identified in September, and they continued to cut even though they knew or suspected that there was an invasive. Again, there needs to be expert oversight to say where, when's the best time, how much, and what and where, so that we're not destroying the aquatic ecobalance.
So are the experts actually coming in and helping out, or are we just?
Well, yes and no. The question is, I don't know how much DES knows. I don't know how forthcoming. If you have an association that's very recreation focused and may not maybe fully understand or may not want to understand, that could be an issue. There could be a lack of transparency too. So DES did come in to identify the invasive, but I know that they're short-staffed. I know it's impossible to come out every single time that a machine like this is in the water. And by the way, I think we're the only town in the state of New Hampshire that has one of these. My understanding is that people are already beginning to acquire other lake associations who want to put something like this in the water. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
You're welcome.
Seeing no further questions. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. And we're going to have DES come up, Darlene. I do have a question for you right off, if you don't mind me asking. Do you have the resources that you needed to take care of all these lakes with all the excessive growth and invasive species?
Again,
Or is
Darlene,
that a dumb question?
Darlene Forst, DES Wetlands Bureau Administrator. There are multiple positions within DES or agencies within DES that have overlapping jurisdictions here. So do I have the resources in the section that I supervise? This would only require that we adopt rules to set parameters by which people could cut native vegetation. We definitely have the resources to adopt rules. It is in watershed and the exotic aquatic species sections that the burden would actually be placed. Right now, we only have an exotic aquatic species section, an invasive species section. We don't have a section that regulates native vegetation and the removal of native vegetation. So we wouldn't have someone within the department that would be funded to go out, and we wouldn't have the resources to go out and start consulting on the impacts of removing native vegetation. That would end up falling into folks who might be, for instance, in the 319 grant program or overall water quality, and that would happen in the guise of, wow, our water quality is beginning to decline. Could you come out and advise us as to why? We're looking for the source. And then you would start consulting with homeowners about what had changed in the watershed, what had changed on the lake, what might be the cause of the nutrient imbalance. So that's where that would get picked up. Would this bill authorize DES to start going out and consulting? It doesn't. It only authorizes us to adopt rules. It does not require a permit. It does not require us to advise, only adopt rules.
What would you recommend?
So,
I mean, we can
On
adopt
behalf
rules all day long, but if nothing's going to happen.
I'm not sure the department, this is a much more complicated issue than just an off-the-cuff answer. The department, first and foremost, absolutely agrees with the intent of the legislation. One of the things that we wanted to point out today is right now the legislation is worded simply says lakes. The lakes doesn't have a proper definition. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that we would ask is for us to begin to go down this road and do what you would be asking us or charging us to do, we would need you to better define our jurisdiction and where you intended us to take this action. That's the first thing. Where exactly do you intend this action to affect? We would suggest not using the term lakes. We would suggest using the term public waters or publicly owned water bodies because it is a term that is already used in the statute. And we would suggest that you should refer directly to its use in RSA 482A 16 that is listed in the letter of testimony, where it specifies that these are great ponds. So the ponds greater than 10 acres in size, or where we control the dam for the flowage, or in fact, we own the bed itself, or one state agency owns the bed.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, so if we make that definitional change, as you suggested in your letter, then the bill will have some use.
That's helpful. It will define the jurisdictional boundaries for where we regulate native vegetation.
Good.
So that would be the first thing that we would ask.
Would it exclude then the private ones that are under 10 acres?
Yes.
So that's the answer.
So small farm ponds, we would not regulate native vegetation in small farm ponds.
Okay, thank you.
Or golf courses, anything. I do not believe that was the intent of the original folks who requested this amendment.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm good.
Sir, did I address the, I don't know
You
that I've
did.
addressed the conference, okay.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we just want to make sure that it works, you know. We can make rules all day long and nothing get done, I guess, but questions from the committee? So we're just going to change the definition from lakes to a public bodies of water, is that what you said?
Public
The
waters are
language is
publicly
there.
owned bodies regulated under RSA 42A16.
Get that, Phil?
Yeah, that's it.
Where can we put that in this bill?
Right where on line 15 where the word lakes is. We're just replacing the word lakes with that phrase.
All right.
That's in the letter.
Seeing no further questions, well done. Good
Thank you.
job. Appreciate it. And, yeah, Andrea, you're our final speaker.
I'll be quick.
You can take it right away.
Hello, Andrea Lamoureux, President of New Hampshire Lakes. We're here to support this bill. We really appreciate the intent of this bill. And as I mentioned earlier, we represent lake associations throughout the state. And our lakes are becoming more planty for various reasons. And what we hear from lake associations is what can we do to have a better balance between, using our lake and the natural plant community. And of course, there's lots of things, but we do know there's an interest out there for lake associations to do some management on the native plants. And I think establishing some rules, some guidelines that are more, concrete and helpful will help to prevent inadvertent consequences of overharvesting our native plants and resulting in algae blooms, cyanobacteria blooms, and other water quality problems. So we urge you to support the bill and make it work.
Well done. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, we're going to close the hearing. Is there a motion to move into exec?
So moved.
Okay. HB 15,
I'll move what to pass.
seconded by Senator
And I will
Farrell.
move a committee amendment and on line 15, the word lakes is replaced with the phrase from the letter from DES. Public waters are public owned water bodies regulated under RSA 482-18:A.
I'll second.
Seconded. Phil, you got that? Just, you got it, all right. So all in favor of the committee amendment?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll move what to pass as amended.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Senator Waters, would you like to take
Sure,
this out?
sure.
Seeing how it is a body of water.
That's right,
of
that's
course.
right. I'm a
It's a water's
I'm
bill.
a private body of
Yeah,
water.
private
I'm up here, I'm a public body.
Under
of
10
water,
acres,
but-
too.
No,
So
I'm
with that,
getting a little late.
is there a motion to move out of exec?
Do you want to get Jared or?
Pardon?
Do you want to get Jared?
I just texted him, yeah. I just, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. All right, you're leaving at 10:45?
Yeah. You want me to go duck my head in the other room? Or?
Yeah, if you,
I'll do it.
Trying to bring Jeff into executive.
What time do I have?
10:29.
15 minutes before they leave.
Yeah, so let's get this done. Appreciate you guys moving this right along. Is he here?
He was in 100, right? Was that where he was?
I thought he was.
Yeah, up there.
Senator Bradley? Commerce.
Which one? Yeah, I wasn't there.
We're going to executive do another bill right now. 190,
Yeah.
all in favor say aye. Opposed, seeing none. 194. Howard has an amendment. Opposed?
As I was looking at this bill and had a conversation with Representative Hill about it, there's some concern about the process that's occurring with removing these roadside markers.
Yep.
And so what this amendment would do, it would simply add language that before amending or removing any marker, the Commissioner of Transportation shall secure the approval of the General Court through legislation passed by both the House of Representatives and the Senate. And this would just give the power to us to decide what was an appropriate action on, amending or removing any of these markers.
Good idea.
We are the elected body, and I think that decision should fall with us.
Insightful amendment, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Further discussion on was there a motion?
So I'll move on to pass,
Okay.
Second.
and I'll move amendment 1616S.
Further discussion on 1616S? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, all in favor of the bill as
I'll
amended?
move it up to pass as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
We can move consent now. Senator Bradley is here.
Yes. Thank you for joining this discussion.
You'd love it.
Yeah, it was
You'd love
great.
this bill.
It's really intense.
So I'll move consent?
I'll second.
All in favor of consent?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Right, get one out of the way.
Yeah.
Would you like me to move 1649?
Yes.
I move House Bill 1649,
House Bill 1649,
1649.
and seconded by Senator Pearl.
and I will move a House amendment we have, which is called 1570, but it's not an official amendment, I believe.
1750?
1750, excuse me.
Yeah, House Bill Amendment, yeah,
I have 1751.
no, it's 1750.
That's a different one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
this is the
1751
state
is
of art.
included into this one.
Yeah, this is the state art.
I don't know that I have the new one. I'll take it up.
And do we have a second? I'll speak to it.
Second.
So,
Yeah, this incorporated
Yeah.
everything that we wanted from
Okay.
her and my bill.
Got it.
and-
yeah,
and mine.
so, I mean, that's what we have, is that we have the, very thoughtful solution from Senator Avard on a definition, and then coming out of the hearing, there was those technical corrections that we needed that Representative Ebel had given us before, so conveniently, the two were put together into this document, and I thank you, Mr. Chairman, this is great leadership.
Well, all the credit goes to Representative Ebel. She's like the yeoman on this, so we're going to, let's pass it, and then we'll give all the congratulations to her. But, so, all in favor of Amendment 1750H, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's a committee amendment.
That's a committee.
Yeah,
amendment,
it's,
Are we also doing 1751?
That's included in
Yes.
in this bill.
It is included.
yes, it is, yeah. Yeah. So I'll move what to pass as amended.
Second?
Further discussion? All right, so I'm just going to again just say she gets the Legislator Award of the Year for hounding me and everybody else on this particular bill of PFAS. And Representative Ball did a great job, Karen Eval, and just saying she did a good job. So all in favor of ought to pass as amended on HB 1649 FM?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Consent?
Seconded by Senator Avard?
No.
You don't
No?
want it on consent?
No. And do you have a copy of 1751? I just want to compare it.
Yep. It is right here. I gave her a copy of it.
I think this is different.
Let's check. Well, thank you, Senator, for making sure.
Here. So that's my amendment right there. And then this page.
Oh, I think there might have been one digit we were off on a federal reference in Senator Avard's. Is that what you're seeing, Senator Bradley?
So it's the definition of PFAS.
It's the FDA's definition.
On page 2 of Amendment 1750.
Which one is this?
You got 51 in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you said that 51 had been incorporated into 50. It hasn't been.
Well, she said she did, but let's make sure.
This is 49. I mean, this is 87.
This is Kevin's.
Yes.
So where was it supposed to be?
This is the EPA definition, I believe.
So at the very end of the 1750, very end of 1750, very end of the whole bill is where it is, of 1750, that at the very end. Well, wait a minute, oh, I think,
You may be
Here's
talking
what we
about two
have.
different things, I think.
here's what we have, Jeff. It's this version. This is the one we're working off of, and here it is, right there. And you're working off of this one,
Yes. Yeah.
Phil?
All
All right, so it's in the
here's
red,
that language.
that's there, that's Kevin's.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in red. Oh, yours is in red.
All right, that's the
Yeah.
reporting,
Yes.
but the definition has not been changed, I don't believe.
See the,
How come you got the red and I didn't get the red? These are the changes.
Here is P, and it should be here, the same as this, and it isn't. Sorry to be a pain.
no, I'm glad you caught that. So let's back up to make sure.
So I think,
Let's see what, okay, so let's make sure we're on the same page. So this is where we're at.
yes,
So I deleted that little feather.
yes, that's correct. And then this definition should be here. The definition lines 3 through 5 in
Should be on-
Amendment 1751 should be substituted for line.
Philip, do you have a copy of this other amendment? Because I don't see it in my file. 1751. I thought we were going to work on 1750. Thank you.
Um, 1649.
I'm sorry, could someone please catch me up because I was not given this one. And now I thought we were just working on 1750, so.
You mean you can't hear me?
Let's do the
All right, so-
reconsideration first before you do that.
Let me finish out the reconsideration. So is there a second on the
Yes,
reconsideration?
I second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I think we were done.
Discussion on,
All right, I will move 1649 ought to pass.
I'll second.
discussion.
I will move a committee amendment, and the committee amendment will have the, what Phil has, which is the email from Karen Ebel with the revised form of 1750, which includes, at the very end of that email, the on or before September 1st, 2025 language. And then if you go back to page 2, it includes on line 26 that what is in the red there. And then what we will do is from Senator Avard's amendment, 1751, we will replace P, starting on line 34, with the P that is in 1751. So lines 34 through
That gets you where you want to be, right?
page 3, line 2 will be the language from Senator Avard's amendment 1751. That will be the committee amendment.
I will second that.
Just, does this definition in 1751 Part P mirror the definition of, that is outlined in line 26 on page 2 of 1750, which is 40 CFR 705, which I have
This
here.
is what is done there. See, this is what she did there.
Right, this is here, which is
Yeah.
this.
See,
Just, no, I see that, I see that, I see that. What my question is, does this mean this without, because I mean, I'm just seeing this, so I'm uncomfortable without having a minute to dig into this.
That's all right. Yeah, all right. Gotcha.
All in favor of the committee amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I move like pass as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none.
If there is a mistake, then we're just gonna have to take it off.
Right, so if there isn't, it'd be good to just let it roll through.
I think just let it roll through on regular.
Okay.
All right, I'll take it out. Very good. All right, we're gonna lose you, Senator?
And you're going to wait on 16.
I will wait, yes, I promise.
Sorry, folks.
That's all right. Next. Oh, we have another hearing right now. Yeah, Chip, I needed you on that one. We got another hearing now.
Okay.
Yeah, so you want to,
Let me know if we're ready to exec again.
I move to come out of exec.
all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. And we're gonna hear for the prime sponsor of 1113. Right? 1113. Thank you for your patience, everybody.
It's okay. Thank you for the record. My name is Rosemary Rung. I'm representing Hillsborough 12, which is the town of Merrimack. I'm introducing 1113 as a way to start addressing the phosphorus that is being introduced into our lakes as a result of failed septic systems. This is really taking a bite out of the elephant in addressing the phosphorus loading that's occurring in our lakes that are contributing to cyanobacteria blooms. Looking at watershed management plans that are prepared for lakes that have suffered cyanobacteria blooms, up to 22% of that phosphorus loading is due to septic systems. A failed septic system within that shoreline protection zone is very difficult to observe because normally if a septic system fails, someone walking over the leach field, it feels soft, it feels wet, you may get an odor. But with failed septic systems close to shoreline, the septage just flows into the river. Either the height of the water disposition from the leach field is similar or close to the level of the groundwater, so it just goes into groundwater, but typically it just runs off. And so this bill attempts to address some of that by controlling septic systems that are part of a shoreline protection zone that's undergoing property transfer. So when a property owner is selling property that has a septic system within the shoreline protection zone, they have to work with the buyer to ensure that an inspection is done and that if the system is in failure, that the buyer has a certain amount of time to have that replaced. If they plan to, and one of the things that came, an amendment following the public hearing, is that if that property is going to be demolished and rebuilt and have to have a new septic system anyway, it accommodates that to just alerting DES to expect a new plan. I know Mr. Philip Trowbridge is here from the Subsurface Waste Division of DES. He can speak to more of that, but if you have any questions regarding the intent, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Representative. Questions from the committee? None. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Andrea?
And good morning again. Andrea Lamoureux, President of New Hampshire Lakes. We are here in support of this bill. This is a step in the right direction to help minimize septic pollution to our lakes, which is contributing to the degradation of the health of our lakes. And I appreciate all the effort that the representatives and DES and other stakeholder groups have put into this bill to make it work. So I encourage your support.
That's it?
That is it.
All right, well done. Seeing no further questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll bring this right along. All right. Philip? Thank you.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Philip Trowbridge. I'm the Manager of Land Resources at New Hampshire DES, which includes the Subsurface Systems Bureau. For the record, the department supports the bill as amended by the House. There's a lot of great work done by House members as well as the Realtors Association and DES to craft the bill in a way that satisfies all concerns. Currently, there is a requirement for what's called a waterfront site assessment, but it has not been as effective as we had hoped it would be. And this bill adjusts what would be required in this case to make it more effective and more cost effective for people doing real estate transactions. Currently, the waterfront site assessment basically tells you how many bedrooms or how much wastewater can be treated on the size of the lot that you have. It doesn't tell you anything about the condition of the septic system and whether it's in failure or not, which is really what we're interested in for protecting water quality of lakes.
Mm-hmm.
So the bill would change the requirements to make it sure that every system receives an evaluation to determine the condition of the system. And it also has a requirement that if there's an older system or a system that has not been state approved, that a licensed designer looks at that to determine whether it is located above the groundwater table or not. And that's important because prior to 1989, the rules for septic systems were not as rigorous on the soils evaluation as they are now. The amendments that were offered through the House process were added extra flexibility regarding timeframes for extenuating circumstances outside of the control of the buyer or seller, and also weather. And it allows for the whole process to be skipped if you're in a tear down situation where the whole house is going to be removed and you'd have to start over anyway. So the department has enjoyed working with all the stakeholders and supports the bill as amended.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from the committee? None. Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Lynn Bartlett Merrill. Is it Bartlett Merrill?
Yeah, it is.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And you're from?
The Merrill, representing the New Hampshire Association of Realtors.
Gotcha.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Senators. My name is Lynn Bartlett Merrill. I'm the principal broker at the Merrill Bartlett Group in Kingston, New Hampshire. I'm also a member of the New Hampshire Association of Realtors Public Policy Committee, and I'm here on behalf of the Realtors in support of House Bill 1113. First and foremost, we want to thank Representative Rung, as well as the department, for working with the Realtors over several months to craft the version of the bill you see in front of you this morning. Specifically, we want to recognize Phil Trowbridge and Ted Deers for spending numerous hours listening to our concerns and suggestions and incorporating many of those into the current version of the bill. This legislation finds that sweet spot in protecting our public waterways while respecting the private property rights of both sellers and buyers. This legislation marks a significant improvement over the current mandated septic site assessments in RSA 485-A on the developed waterfront. I know realtors and the department feel that the existing site assessment mandate is not doing enough to protect our waterways and provides little information on the operation of a septic system to the buyer. Section 3 of the bill shifts the state mandate from the current septic system assessment, which is conducted by a licensed site assessor, usually a surveyor or an engineer, and paid for by the seller, to a mandated septic evaluation conducted by a licensed evaluator. The responsibility for that evaluation would be on the buyer. Our experience is that buyers almost always conduct evaluations in a case of the statute. And this is a case of the statute lining up with current practice. Evaluations provide a higher degree of information on the septic system than does the site assessment. Therefore, evaluations provide buyers with better information on the system so they can make an informed decision. Staying in Section 3, that section also requires that such evaluations are mandated if the system is within 250 feet of the reference line. That is an important and much-needed clarification to ensure that only those septic systems which potentially threaten our waters fall under this mandate. Again, staying in Section 3, the bill states that any system which is deemed to be in failure must be repaired or replaced within 180 days. Such state mandates on property owners are challenging for those of us who advocate the private rights to accept. However, we believe that most property buyers are already conducting their due diligence, and the repair or replacement of a failed system simply becomes part of the negotiated terms of the sale. I am more than happy to answer any other questions, but the realtors believe that House Bill 1113 is a reasonable and appropriate way to protect our state's public waters. We ask you to vote for the bill.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, bases are loaded, pitcher's tired, and you are clean-up batter. Representative, yes, sir. I got you listed as you wanted to speak.
I was not listed as wanting to speak. I'm in favor of the legislation.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Thank you.
So, well done. Grand slam. It did, wow. That was a slow pitch. I have nobody else wanting to speak on this, so we're going to close the hearing. And, oh, wow, thank you. Seconded by Senator Waters. All in favor of exec?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Motion on HB 1113.
To pass.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Senator Waters, you want this one?
Oh, why not?
Sure. It's a Waters bill. All right, so I'd like to do 1623. Pull that out now that you're here, Senator. And is there a motion on HB 1623? Yes.
He's outside. Let me just tell him we're doing it, 'cause he's interested.
I will move on, we're gonna amend it, right?
Yeah, we're gonna move it.
I'll move on to pass.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion.
Judy, can you let Rep. Bush know we're doing this bill? Can you let Rep. Bush know we're doing
He's right around the
this
corner.
outside?
He's that way around the
All
corner.
right. Senator Waters with an amendment?
I think it would be really nice, Mr. Chairman, if you were the one who offered the changes to it, which I believe is striking out everything until a certain line.
Okay, so there's going to be a committee amendment on this, and we're going to strike it out until section,
I believe line 2, page 2, line 12.
Okay, so
yes, so we're going to keep line 12 down? Is that it? Plus. Yeah, so we're going to strike up to line 12 on page 2, and we'll keep the rest. So basically, I'm just going to, yeah, it's just a committee amendment.
And if we just may pause for a second.
So, Mr. Chair.
Further
If I may,
discussion?
yeah, if I may, I think what we need to do is to delete on lines 17 to 18 the words as described in RSA 378-37-2A. So that what we're just saying, that for any reason, generator's involuntary retirement or decommissioning. So I do not think we need to, since we're not enacting the earlier part of the bill,
Right.
I think we need to delete that. And I think that we need to,
24.
I think we ought to, and then on line 24,
Department of Energy, the Department of Justice shall seek funding from actions as described in.
could just have a period after actions.
On line 24.
Yeah.
And then strike described.
Yeah, and then strike the remaining.
Yep, I see that.
So what this will do, I think, and very rightfully, is to give the authority, as requested in the bill, that we can defend and protect New Hampshire's interests when it comes to any decommissioning.
You got that, Phil? All right, can you read that back to me just so?
So I have first, we're striking through to page 2, line 12.
Correct.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
Would we want to keep section 5 of the findings, which deals, I believe, with the section we're keeping?
Sure. So, how about we do that then? We have, what we'll have as the amendment is the findings, and then.
Line 14.
The findings will include section 5.
Yep.
Okay? So
On the
that will
first page.
become 1.
Yep.
Or that'll be the only finding. So
Right.
the findings will be, the general court finds that the state has a duty to defend a production supply okay? So lines 12 through 17. And then we will go to, the committee amendment will go to line 12 through 28.
Bill, yep.
But with the deletion of on line 17, 18 as described in RSA 2A, and then on line 24, we would delete, put a period after actions and delete described in 378, et cetera.
Just so we have, Phil, you want to read that right back to me, please?
Do you have that?
See what this looks like. So we're keeping this.
On what page? On page? Yep.
Then I have, we're going to, are we striking through everything else up till page 2, line 12, then keeping 12 through 28, then deleting within line 17 and 18 the RSA?
As described in.
Yep, as described in.
And
And then on line 24, we're going to add a period after actions and then strike through the remaining.
Correct.
You got it. Nice job.
You all set with the effective date as well? Is that
It's
anybody
all
want?
set, yeah, that's
I
fine.
didn't have any notes on changing that.
I'm just throwing that
Oh,
out
okay.
there.
Yep, I'm good.
All right, so all in favor of the committee amendment?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, I'll take this one out.
You gotta move on to
You gotta-
pass
As
it.
soon as we pass it.
Right.
All in favor of the bill as amended?
You gotta move it.
Move the bills amended.
Yeah.
And I'll second.
I move it.
And
You
I
second.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, and I'll take it out.
All right.
Thank you. Senator Bradley, did you have a suggestion?
On Article 1600, is that?
Yes.
Yes, I have an amendment 1784.
Do I have the amendments?
Do you have that, Phil?
I don't have the amendment
I've
either.
seen it, but I don't have it.
17, I don't have it. Do you have it?
I have it. All right.
You know what? I'm gonna open up a window.
Yeah, it's cool. It's quieted down a little.
Do you have it, Phil?
So basically,
So,
so it's just changing it into a
if I
study.
could, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
So, obviously, subbing for Senator Birdsall, so I got involved in this a little late, but a lot of people have contacted me on both sides of the issue that are raised by this bill in terms of smaller scale net metering projects. There's not agreement between the various parties. It's unfortunate. And you'll see as you get the amendment, I've done a replace all on the bill and turn it into a study committee with the thought that the sponsor of the bill, former Senator, former Commissioner Belo, the Department of Energy, energy providers who are on opposite sides would have the opportunity to discuss this. I think we should insist upon those discussions taking place. So a study committee doesn't lock us into anything today, but it allows the, hopefully, consensus to be developed as I would imagine the House might ask for a committee of conference, and so there'll be enough time for that to happen. I see Representative Bose smiling. Thank you very much. I think the bill is an important bill, but if it would be helpful to have a consensus behind it. So, right, that's.
Well, I agree. In addition to that, it's a lot to take in, just to be frank. There's a lot of information, and like you said, there's a lot of questions still needing to be answered on this, so I'm definitely in support of making it into a study. Hopefully, we can reach a consensus through that. So with that, further discussion?
I'll second the motion to move 1784 by Senator Bradley.
Well, I think we gotta move, I'll move the bill up to pass.
Oh, I thought we did.
Didn't we already do that?
No.
Okay, I'll second.
All right, and discussion, all right, and the amendment 1784,
So he's moving the amendment, I'll second.
all right. Discussion.
I think Senator Bradley laid out a good plan, and I'll support it.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of the amendment 1784?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? So, all in favor of the bill as amended?
Aye.
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 I move out to pass as amended.
I'll second it.
Thank you. I'll get there. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Thank you.
Who else?
I'll take it out.
You'll take this one out, all right.
Good. So we've got 1623 is taken care of. 1036. Is there a motion on 1036? The system's benefit charge? All right, I'll move it, not to pass. ITL.
ITL?
Yeah, we've worked hard on these things, so, is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor of ITL?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Seeing none. I'll take that one out too.
All right.
You comfortable with 1139 right
Maybe,
now?
but probably not.
Yeah, I am.
All right, is there a motion on 1139?
Move out to pass.
I'll second.
Discussion.
I just say, I really appreciate the representative bringing this forward, and we had a good hearing, and I think we became comfortable. This is, it provides adequate protections, and lets us do what people need to do.
And I will say, I've had several discussions with the department on this, and they've
Yeah,
been
me
very
too.
responsive and answered all of my questions and concerns about the possible ramifications of the changes that the bill does, and so I'm comfortable supporting it.
Yeah, I would just say, I appreciate Phil Trowbridge. I talked to him a lot last week, and very helpful, very helpful.
All right, further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Senator Pearl, would you like to take this one?
I'll take this one up. Yep.
Okay. Is there a motion on HB 1145? This is the landfill bill prohibiting private ownership.
I'll move interim study. Or
Interim
were you
study.
looking for ITL?
I'll second that.
Interim study's fine. Further discussion? All in favor of interim study?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. I'll take this one out. That was 1145, I think.
What else do we have on our list? We've got a list there of just FNs
Yeah.
someplace.
Yeah, I'm pulling them all off.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, so I have HB 1687 relative to the disposal of construction and demolition debris from the state contract construction project. And is there a motion on this?
I'm about to pass, as I recall, if that's the way you saw it, Mr. Chairman.
Actually, I heard it just the opposite. But,
Oh, excuse me, let me withdraw my motion.
Yep. Is there a
Oh,
motion?
yeah, I'm sorry, I move ITL. I was thinking the wrong bill.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? I know that there was a lot of discussion
Yeah,
on
I'm sorry, I
redundancy
just
and
completely,
whatnot.
I was thinking of another bill.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, yeah.
All in favor of, what did I say? What did you say, interim?
ITL.
ITL.
Yeah.
All in favor of ITL?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. And Senator Waters, would you like to take this
Yeah,
one out?
sure, sure.
Senator Brennan, you didn't want to take any out?
Just for good old time's sake?
Yeah, I'll do 16.
You didn't want to come down off the stage?
Yeah, I'll come off for the discussion on 1649.
Okay. What is my last, where is it? 1314?
Yes.
What's that?
Do I have an emotion interim study on 1314?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor of interim study?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none? I'll take this one up. Okay, that's our FNs.
Yeah.
We met deadline.
Yeah, and do you want to do HB 1116?
Yeah, yeah, I'm good with that.
This is
The
Elaine
firearms for
Oh.
taking a game. It's
I'll move on
the
to pass.
pistols, the different definition of some more pistols.
Yeah.
Remember this one, Howard?
Yes, I do now. I'll move on to pass.
Senator Pearl
I'll
says
second.
pass, and Senator Waters seconds it. Discussion. We held on to this one for a while.
I know.
Yeah. So,
Just making them sweat.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Senator Pearl's gonna take this one
I'll
out.
take this one.
We're gonna probably amend it with brass knuckles too. so.
Probably.
Taking a deal with brass knuckles, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Very
And squirrels.
interesting.
And squirrels. That are lactating.
You guys have altogether too much fun in this room.
It's getting silly out here. There's another Spillane one if you'd like to do it, relative, 1424.
Okay, let me get over there. 1424.
Spillane and Goley are on this one.
That was the same one. I'm just,
Was that the same one?
no.
This is Bill makes changes to the caliber.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Move
yeah,
on to pass.
this one was fine,
Yeah.
as far as I thought, so.
Move on to pass.
Seconded by Senator Waters. Discussion? All in favor of passage of 1424?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll take this one out too. if you want.
And seeing none, okay. Senator Pearl will take this one out. Rick McCarthy has another one here. Oh my gosh, it's Christmas. So, 1141. This bill makes provisions for obtaining approval for increased load and sewage disposal systems.
I'll move on to pass.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Senator Waters, would you like to take
Yeah,
this
sure,
one out?
sure.
Some of the water's fine.
There's a Waters bill.
This is inland waters, though.
Waters World.
I've always known my colleagues, when they look at me, think of septic, but that's okay.
No,
That's
no,
all
no, we're
right.
thinking of his
That's all
water.
right. That's okay, you know, I get it, I get it.
Well, we do have a couple, we need a couple for next week anyway, right? What do we have for next week?
I have no idea.
No more bills?
Just, exactly, so whatever you don't do today, we'll do.
I'm good if you want to hold off. That might give Senator Altshuler a chance to weigh in next week too on some of these. And maybe we can get them on consent.
Maybe just in case one or something.
Yeah, okay. So we'll conclude there, because everything else, I've only held four.
Move to come out of exec.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none? Energy's got a busy week next week.
Folks, just for your info, on May 29th is the Bowen Gulf of Maine Task Force meeting for offshore wind.
Okay.
The map's been approved, 15 gigawatts. So, if you're looking forward to that.